Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our week number 8. And as you know, we are still delivering this courses online using the Zoom session. And today, my apology for this short notice for rescheduling till 12 p.m. But as you know, I'm going to record this session and will be available tonight for those that couldn't attend. And I hope today we're going to cover something that we started from last week. If you remember, we started using the entity relation diagram to create our databases. And then we stop in one thing, that how we can create our databases using the entity relation diagram. And then we are not able to see this one in our navigator. So now today I will show you, and I will also teach you how you can, after you create your database in using the entity relation diagram, the data model, and then how we can push this database to our server, our local server. So today is the lab quiz 5. We're going to do something very quickly today also about the lab quiz 5. And it's very simple and easy, but still you have till start on Wednesday today, 1 p.m. will be starts. And Sunday, March 30th, this is the deadline for the lab quiz. So you have enough time, because I'm receiving a lot of emails from students. They say, I cannot do it during that class. It's not cannot doing. We're practicing this quiz or lab during the class, but you have, you have enough time to work on it later on, especially the deadline is Sunday, 11:59. So this lab 5, it's worth 5%. So please, today we're going to go through all this stuff again. However, the slides is not enough. Slides is very simple. It's showing you how to use the select statement with the columns, with where clause, which is very simple select statements. But I will show you today how you can create the SQL, how you can create the SQL file from the your entity relation diagram that we already started from last week or 2 weeks. We were working on using the data model and using the entity relation diagram to create our databases and how to link these databases visually. Sorry, guys. So today, folks, also you're gonna learn one of the things that in lab 5, you're gonna learn how to create a table and how you create a database using the DDL statement, which is data definition language. So let me start with the slides first. So today we're gonna also, this is the SQL part 1. We started last week and we're gonna continue today, this week, with the SQL part 2, and then we're gonna end up with the practicing the lab number 5. I think lab 5, it should be written here. Lab 5. So you're going to end up with practicing lab 5 and get ready for lab 5. So week number 8, now we are in the second half of our course. The second half is started with part 2, part 3, and you have in week number 10 test. You have the theoretical test, week number 10. So next week, week number 9, we're going to do some review of the test number 2. However, today it's going to be very simple and easy. Your slides it didn't show any complex SQL that you need to work on it, except, for example, what is the, if you remember from last week, what is the difference between the SQL and MySQL? What is the difference between these folks? If someone talk, do you know SQL or do you know MySQL? So what do you, how you can answer this question? SQL is what? Look at the bottom line here. Bottom line says, MySQL is the relational database management system, like operating system, is a software. So this software is it has GUI, which is a graphical user interface. Exactly, Karen. SQL is the language I'm using the language, structured query language to do what? To create the tables, create databases, create tables, create the columns within table, specify and identify the data type of columns. However, who's allowing me to do this one? The database management system, which is MySQL or MySQL. So MySQL is a relational database management system. It's a software that uses the structured query language SQL. So SQL is a part of, how to retrieve data from a single table, how to retrieve data from the multiple tables, how to create a table, how to create columns within the table, how to alter tables, how to change the column data types. All these are statements within the SQL statement. And MySQL is from the Oracle vendors that allow me to do this as a software, as a relational database management system. So please, this might be one of the questions within the test number 2, because the test number 2 will rely on the theoretical concept of using SQL and the MySQL. So for example, you can use different data types. Like for example, you started using Microsoft Access. Have you used Microsoft Access as a database? No? Okay, no problem. So this is another relational database management system. Have you used Microsoft SQL Server? So this is another vendor. Yep, Jenky, that's perfect. So Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle Database Management System, all these vendors, IBM DB2. So there's different type of vendors that are providing end users with the relational database management systems. So this is the important SQL statement that you need to learn during this course. Oh, there's also PHP MyAdmin. Karen, yeah, PHP MyAdmin is because the PHP MyAdmin, I think MySQL is a part of it, like the same thing we did with XAMPP as a platform. So important SQL statement that you're going to learn during this class, like select statement. Select statement is data definition language or data manipulation language. What do you think? We have DDL and we have DML. So DDL, let me start using some here. So we can use something called DDL, which is data definition language. This is SQL DDL. So, and we have another one we called what? DML, data manipulation or data management language. So data manipulation, data manipulation language. So there is 2 types. So anything that you can manipulate, that you can treat your data, manage your data. And so this is called data modification language or data manipulation language. Like what? Like, how about create data, for example? Sorry. How about create? How about this one, folks? Create database. Is this data definition language or this is data modification language or data manipulation language? What do you think? DDL, Jennifer, DML. So now I have 2 answers. One says DDL, one says, so I want third one. Okay, Sushant. So that's perfect. So I have now 3 says or 4 says DDL. So correct. Create database is that it's one of the data definition language. Drop table, create table. These are data definition language. Whereas if you are trying to modify the rows or data within the tables, or retrieve data from that tables, you can use select, insert into, update, delete. So we have insert into, update and delete will be considered as which one? If we go with insert into, is this data definition language? Or insert into is data manipulation or modification language? DML, correct, perfect. So in this case, we have two types of statements, commands that we can work with, and you're going to learn it, how to use this type of the commands. If I want to drop my table or alter table, or I want to alter columns within tables, so all these are, I want to alter constraints or adding constraint to the tables. So alter table, so all this create, alter table, drop tables, or drop databases are part of the data definition language. So now we have these two things that you need to. Okay, so this is our course is about how to learn these common statement, SQL statements. Part 2 is very simple and easy, but part 2 is about what? About how to use the select query to retrieve data from one table, and how to use the insert into, and then how we can create database and create table. So before we continue, folks, there is some kind of naming convention or best practices to write your SQL. So if you are not, you may notice that I'm using upper cases always for the reserved words and keywords, like select, from, join. And I'm using lower cases for what? This is not mandatory, but this is the best practices. You have to use to it when you write your query. So the upper cases for the reserved words and keyword, and lower cases for the table names and column names, and some other names as well. So for example, here, do you see, sometimes there's color coding here. The red color code, and with uppercase for the select from, this is our reserved word or keywords. Whereas the column names and the table name, it's lowercase with the blue. So sometimes within the slides, if you see, you can distinguish between the column names, table names versus the reserved and keywords. So you will see color codes and also the lowercase and uppercase. So please try your best. I'm not asking you to do when you write your code, you have to color code it. No, because MySQL has this color coding. But please try your best when you write the reserved word, try to distinguish this reserved word and keywords, especially the command names, using the uppercase. Folks, the uppercase and lowercase is not mandatory in any SQL statement. So you can write all your statement in lowercase in one line. But this is kind of, if you want someone else to, for example, if you go to the IT departments, there is some developers, they can test your code. When they test your code should be readable, should be very easy to be readable and get debugged. So if you, for example, if there's any problem with your code, I can go line by line and see your code and can go and find where's the error. But if you write all of them together in one line with no line breaks, with no lowercase and uppercase, it's going to be very hard to someone else to debug and test your code, which is very similar with the other programming language. For example, why we can use the star. If we say select a star, what does it mean select star? Exactly, Ivan. So select a star means if I don't want to specify any column names to be listed in the output window or output panel, in this case, I'm going to use what? I'm going to use star. Okay. But from customers, now I want to get what? All columns to be listed from table customers. And the good thing also, you have to also try to get familiar with and used to it by adding semicolon at the end of the statement. It's not mandatory, but it's nice because if sometimes you have script has many statements. In order to make your statement, to distinguish the end of your statement, please add semicolon at the end of your statement, not end of you. For example, if you have select start from customer, join with other will join. So all this can be considered as a one statement. So add semicolon at the end of the statement, not end of any line. So I will show you now when we go to that. For example, let's go, folks. Let's go and start our MySQL. MySQL workbench. So let's go, for example, I created last week a connection. I called it INFO1273-22W. I'm going to use this one. Click on it. So you're going to start with the new query tab, an empty query tab. So let's say I want to use the AP, account payable. So use AP star. So now I use all of them. But here, do you see that one? The color coding is getting distinguished by the editor, SQL editor for MySQL. But it's better than any keyword to be written in uppercase. So now I use this one. So let's go. I have customer table. Do I have? No. In EX, maybe I have customer tables. Nope. How about Northwind? Have you been successful to get your Northwind up and running on your, because there's some error on that one, if you remember last week. So let's go with this one. For example, select a star from invoices. My editor is not picking up, because why is not picking up? I have to run this one first. Now, this is the active database, selected open database. Now, once I put this one, it might shows me still not picking my. So do you see, folks? I used to it when I'm writing my SQL statement. By default, I used to write the keywords in uppercase, and the column names and the table names, keep it lower cases. So now semicolon is the end of. So now I'm trying to do what? I have invoices, and so let me run this one, folks. Execute all. So now I'm getting. It's fetching. Yep, it's taking a little bit time to. So now my local database server is working, connected to the SQL server, MySQL server, and now this get opened, and now I can get data from where? From invoices. So because this is very simple and easy. In invoices, folks, let's see, where's the vendor ID? Now, if I want the vendor ID. So here, to make it one statement with join, I can say from invoices, join vendors. You have to use what? What is the, how can I link invoices with vendors? So vendors, one vendor has many invoices, which is we didn't reach to this point. But here, folks, I can say invoices in INV and vendors as VEN. I'm going to use alias name as if you are writing as. So what we are trying here, folks, this is one statement. Still, we are in one statement. I can't go and add semicolon at the end of each line. So this is wrong. The semicolon is going to be at the end of your SQL statement once you finish. So now I have invoices, and I name it as an alias name, invoice, IMV, and then V, or I can make it very simply again, IV. So this is one. Folks, as is optional. You can remove it. You can remove it from that, and it's still correct because this as is optional. Now join vendors. Now how can I join these two? How can I join them? I have to find what? I have to find the join columns, the common columns between them. So vendor ID. So I have the vendor ID. I have vendors table. If you go to the vendor table, I have vendor table. I have vendor ID is my primary key. Did you see that? Underscore. So this is my primary key in vendors. But if you come to the invoices, vendor ID is a key. It's not primary key, so it's a foreign key. Now I have to do what? I have to say on I.vendor ID, vendor ID equal V.vendor ID. So vendor ID is underscore, folks, as underscore. Now I will add what? Semicolon. Now this is the end of my statement, not each line, because I can write all of them, folks. I can write all of them in one line and has no problem. But this is not good way. It's not acceptable. I'm seeing some students, they are listing all the statement in one line. That's fine. It's correct. But it's not best practices. So please try your best to add line of break between these things. So now I'm moving. So this is the end of statement. So here I'm using the line of break between, and now if I run, I will get all columns from invoices, and that join to the vendors as well. So all columns of the vendor. You see the vendor name get repeated, vendor ID get repeated for these invoices. So this is the select statement. In order you can retrieve data, extract data from one table, or you can extract data from and retrieve data from multiple tables. Today, this is not but I'm just showing you something as a heads up, because this is you will learn how to join some tables. Okay, what else today? We use the star. Can I use, for example, can I list a specific columns here? I don't want to get all columns. Why should I? Now I want I.vendor invoice ID. Invoice ID you can specify. And then I want I.vendor ID. Then I want something invoice date. I.invoice date. Why I am using I. Why should I use this one? I.invoice ID. And what's the I now here? What do you think, folks? Yeah, this is the alias name. Exactly. This is the alias name. And then I can say v.vendor name, v.vendor name. So let's see vendor name. Yep, v.vendor name. Okay, now I can arrange it in more readable way by putting each column in. Now it's more easier to be read. It's readable. It's more easier if someone wants to read your SQL statement and knows exactly what you're trying to do here. Now, what's going here, folks? now let's go and run all this one again. So my SQL server will know exactly, will compile your statement and will understand that you want to retrieve only 4 columns, 3 columns from the invoice table and 1 column from vendor table. I did very easy. I used the alias name to make the table name dot column name easier to be written. For my sake, because so that's why we can use this alias name. Is this okay, folks? Make sense? Any questions so far? Okay, now I'm using this I. Okay, so keep it this one more. But this is now the way that you can retrieve some data from 2 tables, which is not existing yet, but I'm giving you an extra knowledge to understand. So you can select specific columns, and you can select all columns. When you select a specific column, you can change the order, the sequence of the columns. You can make city first and contact name or customers, whatever. So this is you can change the orders of the column. But if you use a star, the star will bring the columns based on how it exists, the order of the columns within the table. So also you can, for example, add a where clause. Where clause is to filter out your data set. So where clause here, folks, to list, for example, but make sure that when you use with the numeric field, there is no need to use the single quotation mark. Whereas with string, with text column, you need to use the single quotation mark. But single quote or double quote is acceptable. So for example, let's go here. I want vendor names. I want to filter out my data sets, the output based on the vendor name, where v.vendor name equal, for example, this. Right-click, copy row unquoted, or with, then paste it here. Nope. I don't want all of them. I just want this guy. Right-click, copy field unquoted. So when you say copy field unquoted, so do you see? You'll get it without quoted, single quote. So now, do you see it's error here? Why it's error? Why I'm getting error here? Yep, Julia, thank you so much. Because this is going to tell me this is the end of statement. However, I added something new. So this is now an end of my statement. So all will be considered one statement. So these are considered one SQL statement. And you are using different keywords and reserved words like select from, join, where, and we can do order by. So I can add order by. If I want to filter, sort the output based on what? Based on the invoice ID. So invoice ID. So now I have to put the semicolon at the last statement, last end of keyword, the last keyword that I used within this statement. So what do you think now? Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Karen. Also, I can say I want by vendor name first. and then by invoice ID. So I can do this one. Order by, the primary sorting is by vendor name, then sort by invoice ID. Make sense? So if I run this one, folks, because I specify, I put this vendor name, so I can run, I will get only one vendor name with 47 invoices. I got one vendor name with 47 invoices. Can I use double quote here? Let's try. Is it acceptable? Yes, it's acceptable. Let's run. We will get the same exact thing. However, single quote is the way that, because double quote is nice when you have something like this, apostrophe /s, for example. If you have something like apostrophe in between, so in this case, you can use the double quote to enclose the text. So the text should be enclosed by double quote if you are using something like this, apostrophes. So both are, but we are using single quote. Very common with a lot, SQL Server, with the Oracle, with MySQL, they are using single quote because some of them, they not accept double quote. So that's why we're gonna try ourselves to get used to using single quote for that string in MySQL or in SQL statement. So now let's run this one and we will get the same thing here. So do you see, folks? Federal Express Corporation has invoices and vendor ID, which is, this is the vendor ID. That's why you can see the replication or duplication of the vendor ID and the duplication of the vendor names when we join them. Because why? Because I have many invoices with different dates, invoice dates. Make sense? Okay, what else here, folks? Now, if I want to add something, number, let's say if I want to say vendor ID, I want vendor v dot or I dot vendor ID. Can I use this one, 1, 2, 3, for example? 1, 2, 3. I know this is invoice vendor ID is an integer. The vendor ID is integer. Can I, 1 second, for. Sorry, folks, for this. Okay, so let's go with the, is this acceptable or not? So let's try. Let's try. Okay, unfortunately, it's acceptable. Unfortunately. Why? Here in MySQL, it has very intelligent compiler or whatever interpreter. Can take this one and switch it back to the numbers. But don't do it, folks. Why? Why? because in some other SQL database management system, it's not acceptable. So that's why with the number columns, try not to use single quotes. Try to use the numbers as is. Only if with the varchar, with the variable characters and character columns, you have to use the single quote. So now you will see, Fox, we can also run and we will get the same thing. However, please don't try with numbers, even here in the slides, don't try with numbers using the single quotes. Don't enclose this numbers with single quotes or double quotes. So please, so with the numbers column, use number as is without single quote, but with text, try to use the single quote, and don't use this type of single quote, the one that this is not acceptable, the normal one. Okay, so SQL tab, we talked about the SQL tab. These are the parts of your MySQL. We already learned this one, folks. You can limit your number of rows to be retrieved here. You see the filters? You can say limit your rows in query. You go over there here. For example, if you are running your query against some tables and you know you have millions of records, only to test for testing purposes, you can minimize the limit of the retrieved columns or rows from that table. You can go up to limit to 50,000 rows to be retrieved from that SQL statement. So for example, by default is 1,000. So you can limit to return or retrieve up to 1,000 rows. Yep, Aaron, yep, for sure. Let's go, for example, here. You can say, for example, vendor ID. Give an example, Aaron. Let's say here we have vendor address. Let's try vendor city. How about this one? Is this acceptable? Aaron says, can we add a column name in the order by without listing it in select statement? Can we do this one, for example? Let's do this. Vendor city first. And then, so let's try. Yes, you can do it. However, this will not be acceptable if you use group by, and you didn't reach the group by, but with the simple select statement, yes, you can use the column name in order by, which is not in the list. No problem. You're welcome. Okay, folks. So this is the way that you can go through that. Once again, I'm seeing this is duplicated. Again, the most important SQL statement now is select, create table, drop table, create database, and create table. So today we're gonna go and cover these four. So we talked about the select statement now. Now how we can, okay, I'm seeing something here. Okay. Let's go to the Fox. Let's go here. I want to show you. I can show you Let's go back to our data model. Do you remember the data model that we created? Do you have the student enrollment data model? Do you remember this one? The student enrollment. If you remember last time, we were talking, one of the examples that we went through, student, professor, and course enrollment. School DB. Yes, maybe, Chris. Thanks. This one, I think, is School DB. Where is my School DB? It's already open. Okay. So here, if you remember, we did courses, student, and this is what? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Karen. So whatever entity, whatever data model that we created previous weeks, you can go and open it. What we can do here, folks, once we created the data model and we use the entity relation diagram, EER diagram, double ER diagram, entity relation diagram, you can see now this is the diagrams. I have courses, I have students, and we have the enrollment, student with courses. I don't know if you have this one or you have a different one. But this was one of the, I remember this is one of the examples that we worked on in lab 5, maybe lab 6, lab 5. Okay, no worries. Whatever one that you work on it, go and open the data model that you already have. Let's say the school one. Go and open the school one. Okay, so go and open this school one. Let's say we cannot see, if I go to the labs, I'm unable to see my, do you remember we created something and we weren't able to see our student enrollment heroes. Even I can see it here. So one thing that you can start with is called file. Here we can go back to this one. Reserve engineering. Whatever diagram that you created using data model, whatever, you can go to the file, import, reserve engineering, MySQL, create script. What we are trying here, folks, now we are trying to create the script, SQL script for this data model. So reserve engineer, MySQL, create script. So we'll tell you, okay, select SQL script file. Sorry. Export, forward engineering, sorry. Reserve engineering to import, but now we are exporting this one. Now exporting. Export, forward engineering, SQL create script. Sorry, Fox, my apology. So if you want to export this data model and create the SQL script for this one, go to the file. You are in, Fox, you are in MySQL model. So whatever your name here, school, whatever. So here I can go to the file, export, forward engineering. Forward engineering. Where do you want to save it? Output SQL script file. You can leave it blank to select to see the generated SQL file, or you can say, this is my student, or let's say school course, or a student course enrollment. Student course enrollment. You can use whatever. Where I'm going to save it, I'm going to go to the week number 7 or week number 8, for example, and save it over there. So now next. Next. It will show you this one, folks. Do you see? I didn't write anything. So MySQL, Relational Database Management System, has this functionality. Once you create your database using data model, you can use the forward engineering create SQL script. You have two types, reverse engineering and forward engineering. This is the forward engineered SQL script. Now finish. Oh, permission denied. Yeah, but I have to. Did you see, folks? Now I can. Hopefully this will get next, finish. There you go. I can go to my week number 8. I can see this has been created. Good. You can open this one, folks. You can open this one. But I'm gonna, it's unconnected. So you did this one, folks. Now how we can return back, go to your labs, file, no, sorry, server, data, import. No. So you have this SQL file. 1 second, let me click on it. So we created this one. Let me see this one on using the So this is the code that get generated from that functionality. We got only the structure of the date tables. So you're going to go and create this student enrollment. But do you see, folks, I'm not very with this. Okay, so if we can go back here and open the SQL. And let's run it. Done. I just opened this one, folks. I just did open SQL and I selected this SQL file. I did open and then execute. Okay, refresh your, 1 second. You see now? Because I already have this one already there. What's the error, Karen? So go and open. So first of all, do the, yeah.
It's a error code 3780.
So which
referencing column courses ID
line?
and
Which
reference
line?
column.
Error in, sorry, which line?
Doesn't show.
It should tell you what the, so sometimes I have the warning message here.
Create table if not exists, student enrollment.
So here, folks, create schema or create database if not exists.
Would be line 48, I believe.
Sorry?
Line 48.
Line 48. Create table, this one.
Yeah, that's where the error code starts.
So do you have the same, did you get the same generated SQL, like similar to the, yeah, because you have something, I can't run it. Yeah, because Bushra, don't double click on it. You have to open a connection first, as I did. I know, you have to open the connection. Then in the connection, go and open the SQL file. You have to have a connection opened. Without connection, you will not get anything. So first of all, before, don't go to the double click on it. Don't double click on this. So you have to open a connection first. For example, I open this connection. And once you open, good. Then you can open the SQL. Karen, are you okay with this one, or still you are getting the same problem? Open a connection.
I'm going to retry opening it.
Yeah. So open a connection first, and then open the SQL file.
It's still giving me the same error code.
Check your tables, because go to your data model again. Make sure that you don't have any problem. Your database is already completed. Make sure that your database is completed correctly, properly.
Can I see your model quickly?
So this is the model that I have. I can, for example, let me share with you what I have. So I created this one, folks. 1 second. So let me go to the content, week number 8, resources, or week number 8. I'm going to add this one here, folks. The one that I already created. I'm going to add it here. Go to the week number 8 and refresh your and get this one. Folks, how about I will go through without any break and we will start to try to finish at 1:40. Is this okay for you? Good. With no break. Good, thanks, Nira. Thanks, Bushra and Julia. Okay, now go and download this one, the one that I already, the SQL that I generated from my data model. And then try it at your end. But before trying this one, folks, you have to have your connection. You have to have an open connection. Make sense? Okay. Any luck? Anyone has? I can see Oscar, Kevin, Julia, are you okay? Did you get it or still you are trying? Christian, the new file run for me. Good, thanks. Still downloading, Kevin, okay. So please go and download this one, folks. The one that I already shared in week number 8. The one that I shared in week number 8. Julia, you are getting problem now?
Yes, it says that I have a SQL syntax error.
So have you downloaded the one that I shared? Okay,
Yes.
go and download this one. Go and download this one and then open a connection.
Yes.
Then this is the connection. I'm going to close it. Go to the MySQL, open MySQL, open SQL script. So
Okay.
go and to the file. Where did you save it? Go and select that file.
And then run, right?
Open. Yep.
Oh, now it worked.
And execute.
Yeah. Now
Don't
it's
change
working.
anything. Don't change anything. Just keep it as is.
Thank you, Professor.
No problem. Karen, still? So I run it again. I'm getting some warning
I opened it
message.
on a new connection and now I have the database, so all is good for me.
Okay, that's perfect. Anyone else,
Thank you.
folks? No problem, you're welcome. Kevin? Anyone else? Because I can see other faces, so almost got it. That's perfect. Bushra? Brandon? Vishal? Okay, good. Thanks. That's fine. As long as there's 5, 6 students or 10 students, they are doing well. That means keep try until you get. Good. Thanks everyone for your reply. Okay, the same thing, folks. We have to do the same thing for the Northwind. Northwind is a part of your lab 5. So let's go to the week number 8 resources. Go and download lab 5 PDF file. Go and download lab 5 PDF file. So let's do the same way we did with the Northwind and then go and download this zip compressed file. Okay, so you have the lab 5. This is the requirement. You have to go through the requirement. What's the required for the lab 5? And then let's go and download, because Northwind MySQL is a part of the lab 5 requirements. Okay, folks. So go and extract the zip file. I downloaded the zip file, then I extracted the zip file here. So let's go and open lab 5 PDF file. So before moving to the lab 5, let me see if we're missing anything here. Where close, equal, not equal. So let's leave it now and then go to the lab 5. So in lab 5, it's going to tell you on the MySQL dashboard, select a connection. So you have to select or create a new connection. Then using the SQL editor window, write an SQL statement required to the drop. If you did the Northwind from last week, folks, if you remember week number 7, last week, we were talking about Northwind MySQL. Have you had your Northwind already there or not? So let's go first and start with the Northwind. You should have the Northwind. For example, I have the Northwind. This is a virtual company database. The Northwind is a very, very nice, a very good sample of database for the virtual company, retail company. They are selling bikes or they are selling products. It has a lot. It has customer database, categories, employees, orders, and order details. If you get some problem with the order details, but you can go and open this one. Open. I'm going to open my week number 7, Northwind MySQL. So what I did, folks, I removed this code, which doesn't make sense. You can keep it as is. I removed this weird codes, and then some of you guys, you got some problem with this one. Order details. It comes concatenated. So you have to do what? I did some change, but don't worry, folks. You can go back again to the week number 7 and then open the Northwind again. So Northwind MySQL. The problem here, folks, I didn't see create database. So I did by myself create database. The zip file will not let me. I will put my name just to let and create it again. Copy back to the paste here. So this is the original one. I'm getting the original one. This is the original one. That's coming from the extracted from the zip compress file. if you go here, change reload file. I'm going to close this one. Come on. I changed the names. Oh my. Come on. Yeah, but you have to drop the old one. It says you have to drop the old one. Do you see in the requirement says drop the previous, which is doesn't matter. It's okay. Even if you don't have it, don't worry. Come on, I have some problem because I changed the name and now it's not responding. MySQL is not responding at my end. Okay. I'm going to close it. Just a second, Fox. Once I change the name outside. 1 second. Come on. I'm seeing something here, something somewhere. Okay. Okay, I'm fine now. So you have to get this one. But the extracted one is coming with no create a schema. So you have to create a schema by your own, or you have to add create database from here, as I did. But let's go with the new one. Let's go with, I'm going to close this one. Let's go with the new extracted file in week number 8. So the new extracted file is called Northwind MySQL 1. Extract, and you're going to get this one, Northwind MySQL. So go to this now, using this, drop this, import a new instance of the sample database Northwind. So what you're going to do here, Fox, go to the connection, go to the server and import data import. Go to the file menu, server, data import. Select import from self-contained file. So let's do it like this. Go to the server, data import, select this, the second option, import from self-contained file. Now let's go and I'm going to go to the week number 8. And this is the file that extracted from the Northwind zip compress file for week number 8. Open. So not first option, the second option, import from self-contained file. Good. Now start import. Start import. But did you see this one? Import completed with 1 error now. Because I already, so refresh. Now you have, okay, sorry, folks, 1 second. I have to change the name. I'm going to delete this one, folks. 1 second. Drop schema. I'm going to keep this one. Here you have to say, you have to change the name, folks. 1 second. Browse the location to the MySQL. Next to the default target schema, drop down, select new, and enter the name My Northwind. Let me go back again. Sorry. So let's do import again. Let's stop this one. Come on. Let's go to the server, data import, second option, self-contained. Select your SQL that extracted from the zip file. Then here, new. You have to click the new. What's the new? We're going to call my. You have to go through this one. My Northwind. My Northwind. Okay. You have to follow My Northwind and then click Start Import. What do you mean, Riley? You don't see. You have to be in the one of the connection. You have open a connection, Riley. You have open a connection first. I'm going to repeat it again. This is your lab 5, folks. You have to have a connection opened. Then go to the server, data import. So you have to see this data import page. Yes, correct, Bushra. We have to. So the second thing, import self-contained file. Riley or everyone, are you following me? Good. Okay, now you have to have an open connection first, then go to the server, data import. Now you have to land it in on this page. So you have now on this page, go and select this option. Import from self-contained file. Then click this. The extracted zip file, the SQL file from zip file, you have to know where did you save it. Select it. This is week number 8, folks. Week number 8 zip file. Week number 8, in the resources of week number 8, this is week number 8. So we have Northwind MySQL 1 zip compressed file. Then I have to select it. You have to open a new, for example, Crystal. What I did, I created a folder for my week 8, a new folder. Go and create a new folder, then download this one on that new folder. Just distinguish. So go and download this one to the new folder and extract your zip file and save it on the same folder. Now, when I'm going back to this one, when I'm selecting, I have to know I'm selecting from the new folder, week number 8. Does this answer your question, Crystal? I open, then select new, called my north wind. Okay. Because already exists. Okay, so what I have to do what? Because I have my north wind. I have to delete it because I did something. Drop schema. I dropped my schema over there. So this is your, so now I can go and say my north wind. Okay. I think it's wrong. My north wind. So I wrote it here, my north wind. Crystal, are you okay? Are you okay to follow me? So now I have this one, and then I can say start import. Error, my Northwind database exists. I'm going to retrieve, but I can see my Northwind. You see, folks, my Northwind has all this. Why Parkish? It cannot, because go and open a connection. Go and open a connection first. First, you have to open. I don't know what's going on at your end, but look at here. I can delete mine, drop it, so I delete it. I don't have any my Northwind. I have my old Northwind. Is this fine, folks? I have my old Northwind. I'm going to do it again because this is your lab. So how can you do it? First of all, open a connection. Because I already have. So this is my connection. Query one. I'm going to close this one as well. Okay. Here, folks, go and open. Sorry. Go to the server. Data import. Good, no problem, Crystal. You're welcome. So server data import. So you're gonna land on this page. Select the second, because all these are written here, folks. It's written. All this instruction is written here. So now what you have to do? The first thing you have to go and select the extracted file from week number 8, not week number 7, from week number 8 zip file. Open this one, then click to the new. My Northwind. Okay. Then import, start import. Done. So it's not here, so you have to refresh all. Right click, refresh all. Once you refresh all, you will see my north wind has been created successfully. It should be like this. This is the first step, folks. The second step in lab 5, you have to go and create. You have to write a query to create a table. With one error, that's okay, but go and refresh all. You should see all tables. You should see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tables. You should have 8 tables created for my Northwind. But you know, if you try to start over from scratch, I don't think so you will get any error. You shouldn't get any error. Okay, now the next step is, let's go to what we are trying to learn today, how to use this create database statement, create table statement. You can create your database. You can create a table within your database. Refresh is very simple. You can either to click this icon or right-click, refresh all. Right-click, we have the schema navigator. We have the navigator pane, right-click, refresh, sorry, right-click, refresh all. Or click this one. Now, we have to go to the query. We need to do what? Do you want to create your database? Yeah, I can create my own database. Create database, write your first name and last name. Like, okay, let's create our own database. Can we create this one? Click, refresh. Yeah, this is my database now. You can write create schema, create database, same. Can you drop this database? Yes, I can drop this database. Database, drop means delete physically. So now I can delete. Did you see? It's gone. Ivan, that's perfect. Good. So it's gone. So create database, you can create your own database and then you can use it. Say, create and use my database name. So now you can say, create and use. Refresh. Did you see, Fox? My database has been created. Now I can I create a table here? Let's create a table. Create table. Which table? I'm going to call it my table 1. Then I have to open parentheses. My table 1. I can name it what? My table underscore ID. My table 1 ID. This is integer. Is this primary key? Yes, you can say primary key. Primary key. Is it auto increment? You have to say auto increment, for example. Auto increment, maybe it's not correct. So let's keep it primary key. So accepting this one. If we go to the Do you see that? Not null, primary key, auto increment. You can say not null. I can go to I can say this is not semicolon. Yep. No problem. We can add the primary key at the end. So this is integer, not null, auto increment. And then I have another column, which is okay. I'm going to call this one student ID, student name, varchar 40, not null. You can go more and more. Student grade. This is my course, for example, if I want to do something. This is going to be decimal, which is 5, 2. Can be null. Now I can say primary key. What is my primary key? My primary key here is student ID. So you can do the drop table if exists and then create table. You can write something like this. Okay, now I did my first table. I can say create table. Sorry, drop table, drop this table if exists. Which table? My table 1. Okay, I'm going to call my students. Okay, let's do my students. Be careful about the spelling, folks. Be careful. Drop table if exists. Exists is a, because it's I'm gonna write it on uppercase. So let's go with this one. Do I have any table? No. Let's go and drop it. Nothing is going to be dropped. Let's go and create this my students table. Done. There is something called a warning, doesn't matter. Right click, refresh all. You see now? I have the first. So this is the way here is asking you here, what you're going to do. Go and start creating your first table. The first table will be name invoices. Within your my Northwind. So the first table is going to be invoices. You have to create and include the code required for create 4 columns into the new table. I need 1 primary key column called invoice ID and 3 other column name like customer name, amount, and invoice date. Okay, folks? So the first table should be created within, folks. you have to create it within what? Within your My Northwind. So you have to do what? Use My Northwind. Then go and create the table, invoices, invoice ID, and then customer name, amount, invoice amount, and invoice date. And you have to specify which one is the primary key in this table. So this is the first one. And then you have to insert into data for this one. Let's say if I want to insert data. So here, if you see Fox, you created tables now. How you can insert data? Look at here. I can create a table, student ID, last name, first name, address, city. Now, how we can insert data into that table? So you have to do it by insert into. You see, Fox? Insert into table name. Here, I can insert into to my so for example, here, insert into, this is where? To my table. Should I specify and then values? We have to specify the values. Semicolon in order to make a new statement. Has no error. Okay, Fox. Insert into my student. Well, I'm gonna student ID. Then student name. Then the third column. Now values. Student ID, the first column student ID, I want to add 100. The student name and the student grade. Because these are the text column, varchar column, so that's why I'm using double quotes here or single quote. Yes, Mira, I'm doing this one now. So now we are inserting into my created table. So the same thing you're going to do on your lab file. You have invoice table, should be created within your My Northwind. So now I can, for example, let's say I can see Özgür in my, and then what's your grade is Özgür. Let's go and say he has 80. That's good, or 85. Don't worry. And I'm going to go and insert, copy this one again. I'm going to go with 101. Julia, I can see Julie next. And 88, a little bit more, don't worry. Then we're going to go with Karen, maybe the third one. This is the way that you can start. Okay, one thing. Should I need to list this one? No, it's optional, but it's required. It's nice to have it, but I can do it like this. But I have to make sure that every single value that you're listing here should be matched the column names and column data type. Now, Karen, 87, okay? So let's go and run these. Look at here, Fox. The first two with specifying the column names. The last one without specifying the column names. But this is very risky and dangerous because you have to make sure that every single value that you are adding in the values should be matched with the the order of the columns, and the data type of each column. Because you're not naming the column, you're not listing the column names. So in this case, you have to know that the orders, the order of the column, these values should be matched with the order of the columns. Now let's add 3 of them, semicolon. Don't forget semicolon at the end of each statement. Okay? Now what else? I can see, let's go and select star from my students. Did you see now? I have 3 students. It's Bushra, you can keep all of them in one insert into, that's fine. But I want you to learn. I want you to learn how to use the insert into, because here, sorry. You can use the values or table name with no column names with value. Do we need to repeat? This is a good question from Bushra. Bushra say, do we need to repeat this one? Some database management system allow you to do this one. For example, I can use this one. Some database management system allow you to do something like this. Value no need to repeat insert. No need to repeat. Some database allow you, some database management system. This is more simple and easy. But does MySQL allow us? Let's go and do it. Let's change Bushra and Kevin. And who's else? Crystal. I can see Crystal picture only. Crystal. Good. So let's do it like this. Error.
We would have to change the IDs, I believe, because they're replicating on the same insert intos.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. So 105, 106, because here it says duplicate entry. The primary key will not accept. And 107. Let's repeat it. Let's execute it. Done. So MySQL is very flexible. Very flexible, rather than you're repeating insert into, values. So you can do one insert into and values, but don't forget, you have to use parentheses for each row. This is the end of our today. So the lab 5 is almost done. The lab 5 says also, you created the invoice table. Now you have to go and create another table, returns table. It has also 4 columns, 1 primary key and other 3 columns. So your MyNorthwind should have 2 new tables. The first table is invoices table, and the second table should return table. And also please go and read the submission instructions very well. You have to do what? You have to create a SQL file for this. For lab 5. I need your SQL like this. When you have to show me this one. Yes, the return table. So Shant, you have to create 2 tables, 1 for invoices, 1 for returns in lab 5. So I finished here all the requirements and the lab 5, all the learning objective for today. And we did all this stuff even practically. Now your turn, work on your lab 5. And don't forget, you have enough time. You can do it today till Sunday. So you have enough time to work on it. No problem. No problem, Parkish, you're welcome. Okay, folks, enjoy your rest of your day and see you next week. See everyone. You're welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Professor.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. You're welcome, everyone.